Hi, my name is Chris Herrera, and for my GIMB project, I took Eisenhower Park as my project. So let's just get right into it. So the simple layout of the park is really simple. There were six trails that I took. Each one was the Yucca Trail, the Hillview, the Red Oak, the Live Oak, the Shady Creek, and Cedar Flats. And overall, these trails were very beneficial to me in finding specimens and pictures. But overall, the one trail that I hold above all else is the Hillview because it does a whole lap around the park. Now we get into the nitty gritty. See, what we have here is cases of mass waste and mass movement of soil, where these trees were once standing proudly, just standing straight up. The movement of their soil made them lean a bit, made them go down instead because of this mass waste and mass movement. It's quite unfortunate because I like the trees how they look when they stand up, but the science behind it doesn't allow them to stand up where the soil is moving them forward and forward and forward, and they continue to go towards the ground because of this. And and no, these are the three most prominent pictures that I could have taken with these trees. Excuse me. An interesting find was actually this massed waste on the right, on this right here, where my mouse is right now. This is where all the sediment and all of the waste goes here. And this was miniaturized, where in fact that this was a mass waste itself, but it was smaller. It's much smaller than what we're used to seeing in major geographical landmarks. But for sure, it's like it looks just like a mass waste, and it was just found on a simple trail in San Antonio. So go figure. It was very humbling to see this happen before my eyes. Now I move on to the many forms of weathering that I found along the way. These three would be chemical, which is in the form of carbonation, physical weathering in the form of roots, and mechanical weathering in the form of frost wedging. And this picture on the right is actually, fun fact, the first rock that I ever picked up as on day one. We're going to see a lot of rocks right now. So these three rocks that I found and took pictures of are pretty good examples of chemical weathering and the carbonation that happens and makes these holes on these rocks possible. What happens is carbon and water mix together and create acid rain or acid stuff in general. And the acid eats at the rocks and it creates these holes in them. And now it looks like these rocks have actual pores of skin. It looks freaky at first, but once you get an eye for it, you just begin to just go with it. And by the way, these are the most abundant rocks that I could find. Now I move into physical weathering, the roots. Now with biological weathering, also with physical weathering, you know, the root over here was going into a rock behind the tree, unfortunately, so I couldn't get that, but it was going into it. It was splitting apart the rock, which was very, very fascinating because I've never seen that in my life before. I've only seen various forms of weathering, but I've never seen that. Then we move on to mechanical weathering, which is the frost wedging. The frost wedging was when water got in here and it froze. So in essence, it expanded the rock and cracked it and made a fissure along it, which is very interesting because I've also never seen something like this before, or I just was very oblivious to it. So the overall of the hike. The overall of the hike was very, very educational, and I never understood most of the concepts that I went over just now. But for right now, this was my eye-opening experience. This was my coming of age moment. No, I'm just kidding. But overall, it was very, very good for me, and it got me some exercise, and I also learned more and more about geography than I have in about say 15 years, ever since I was a kid. Um, yeah. So to close, I just want to say thank you to everyone who watched the video, and I want to also say thank you, Dr. Yeager, and I will hope to see y'all be okay over your holiday. Be safe, and I will see you next semester. Maybe. Who knows? Bye. See ya.